Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Brian's Horror Corner, and welcome to this horror movie review as part of my 31 Horror Movies in May series. Only a couple days left. So today we're going to take a look at one of the quote unquote modern movies. I'm not going to use the term that a lot of people like to throw around that starts with an E. I fucking hate that term, but I'm going to call it modern horror. Um, Movies like Midsommar and The Babadook, and this is kind of in the same realm. And it's first time watch for me, and that's the movie It Follows from 2014. So yeah, first time watch for me, and we're gonna go ahead and review this movie and give you my thoughts on it. So let's just go ahead and get started as normal with the setup, the premise, and the cast, and then I'll get into my thoughts and review on the movie, pros and cons as I see them. So it Follows is a 2014 American supernatural psychological horror film written and directed by David Robert Mitchell. The story is about a young woman who is pursued by a supernatural entity after a sexual encounter and must have sex with another individual to avoid it. So that's kind of the gist. So the film starts out with a young woman named Annie who flees her house in fear, but there is no visible threat. She takes her she takes her parents' car and drives to the beach, where she tearfully tells her dad over the phone that she loves him. By dawn, it is revealed that she has been brutally murdered. So, good way to open the film, by the way. Afterwards, Jamie J. Height goes on a date with her new boyfriend, Hugh, to the movies. Hugh points out a young girl in the back of the theater. When Jay says she cannot see the girl, Hugh becomes unnerved and asks that they leave. On another date, Hugh and Jay have sex in his car, but afterwards, he incapacitates Jay with chloroform, and she wakes up tied to a wheelchair. Hugh explains that he has passed on an entity into her through intercourse. It will perpetually be walking towards Jay's location at all times, no matter where she is. If it catches Jay, it will kill her and pursue the previous person to have passed it on. Hugh, who is passing it to Jay, is leverage. Hugh's claims are proven real when a naked woman appears and walks straight for Jay. Hugh drives Jay home and flees. The next day, the police cannot find a naked woman or Hugh, who is living under a false identity. At school, Jay sees an old woman in a hospital gown walking towards her, invisible to others. Jay's sister, Kelly, and her friends, Paul Bolden and Yara Smith, agree to help and spend the night in Jay and Kelly's house. That night, someone smashes a kitchen window. Paul investigates but sees no one. Inside the house, Jay sees a disheveled, urinating, half naked woman walking toward her and runs upstairs to the others, who cannot see the entity. When a tall man enters the bedroom, Jay flees the house. Her friends catch up to her at a nearby playground. So that's the setup and the premise for this movie. It Follows, from 2014. Before I continue, I'm going to take a sip of my coffee out of my Jason Voorhees coffee mug here. Mm. Cast wise for this movie, we have Micah Monroe as Jamie J. Height, Kirk Gilchrist as Paul Bolderon, Olivia Lasardi as Yara Davis, Lily Seep as Kelly Height, and Daniel Zovato as Greg Hannigan. So yeah, that's the setup, premise, and cast for the 2014 movie It Follows. Sorry, I don't like my lighting here as far as the whether you can. I don't like the reflection, I should say, on the case here. So what did I think of this movie? That's the big question that you've probably tuned in for. It's pretty mixed to me, to be honest with you. And I didn't realize what a polarizing movie this was, although I guess I should have, because all these quote unquote modern horror movies in the last 10 or 12 years, people either seem to love them or hate them. And I was actually one that liked the Babadook more than other people. I have a review up on my channel for that movie from last year. Um, this movie I'm not quite as high on as the Babadook. I just like saying that. I'm just going to give you my reasons why. But first of all, let's start with the things I did like, the pros. Obviously, the movie offers a very unique premise and a clever idea that hasn't really been explored in this way before. It has very relevant themes to a modern audience. You know, the idea of sex and STDs being passed on to people in the form of this entity. Spoiler alert. Hopefully, that's not a spoiler for you. You probably know that already. Um, It's clever, it's unique, and interesting, and some people probably find it terrifying, much more so than I did. So that's one pro that I have. One of the best thing about this movie is there's a really solid score and great musical cues used. Kind of an '80s score. This is sort of an '80s throwback movie. Um, Very like synthesizer, electric score almost. I really liked the score and the musical cues. They did a great job adding tension and suspense to the movie, especially within certain scenes. We kind of knew that there's some bad shit about to go down because of the music. So very effective there. Also, the cinematography in this movie from the '80s aesthetic, it really helps to build tension. They use good camera angles. It's a very well shot movie with different shots of the streets in suburbia, different shots that we get with light and dark. So yeah, the score and the cinematography, those are my two biggest pros for the movie, as well as the very unique idea and concept that they have for this movie. I also thought the performance of Micah Monroe, who plays Jay, the main character in this movie, I thought she did a really good job of playing the characters. She's not a perfect character, and I thought she did a good job of sort of displaying her flaws while still being a likable enough character. Whereas the audience, we root for her to be okay. And yeah, good performance by Micah Monroe there. I really liked and enjoyed the '80s retro feel and atmosphere to the movie. It makes for a fun watch, especially for somebody like me that's just loves the decade of the '80s, whether it be movies, music, nostalgia, just the whole thing. Because I was a kid in the '80s. I like sort of the mystery aspect in the first act of the movie, kind of what's going on, especially after the opening scene, which I think is a very effective opening scene where you have you have no context to what's going on. You just see this girl basically running around in in her shirt and panties in a panic, and they're not quite sure. She gets in a car, she goes to a beach, and the next shot we get the next morning is very pretty gruesome actually, and very effective, I think, to engage the audience in this movie. It's a really good opening to the movie, and but I like the mystery aspect. You're not quite sure in the first act, and until we're kind of explained like towards the end of the first act as far as what's going on in this movie, and so that was really effective for me. So yeah, there's definitely some things that I like about it. Follows, it's definitely not a dumpster fire movie. Let's get into some of the things I didn't like now, some of my cons, and the biggest one is I just wasn't scared by this movie. The Babadook, for some of its flaws, it was scary because of the entity in that movie actually scared me somewhat. They just did a better job with it. In this movie, I was never really scared. I mean, I was engaged in the watch because of the main character and because of the aesthetic of the movie and what they were kind of trying to go for. I wanted to see how it was going to play out, but there's never one moment that I was really scared. There were some tension filled scenes, some suspense. I actually think it plays better as a thriller than a horror movie, frankly. That might just be me, but yeah, I was just never really scared of the movie. Also, some of the story elements, especially as it relates to the rules of it, the entity, don't really work. Where certain things have to happen and certain things that aren't shown, which leads to some ambiguity. And again, I like ambiguity in horror movies. I'm not somebody that needs to be spoon fed answers, but you got to give this movie should have had a few more tidbits than what we got. I would have liked to have been given a bit more. I think it would have made the movie work a little bit better, in my opinion. The other big con I have, and I don't know, some people probably aren't going to care about this, but I noticed watching this movie as a first time watch that it really borrows, or i.e., steals from a certain John Carpenter movie known as Halloween from 1978. Um, from the shots of the cars on the streets in suburbia to Laurie's theme music from Halloween, very much the same theme music for Jay's character, right on down to a shot in a school where her teacher's talking and she looks out the window and sees somebody walking or standing or walking outside the window that scares her. I mean, you could say it's an homage, but I don't know. I feel it feels like a little bit more of an homage to me to Halloween. It feels like they genuinely stole stole scenes and ideas from that movie, and I'm not big on that. Don't really like that myself. It just kind of feels cheap and lazy to me. Again, this isn't a ripoff of Halloween. The movie itself has a unique and different premise. It's not based on the boogeyman like that movie was, but they definitely borrow um, music and scenes and just shots and images from that movie. There's no question about it. It does have some of the typical 80s tropes where the hell are the parents throughout these movies? It's all just a bunch of kids in this house that clearly they don't own. And this is a trope that was used in the 80s where the parents are just gone but we're not given any real reason in this movie. Even in Halloween, in John Carpenter's Halloween, we learned why the parents were gone. They told Laurie at the beginning of the movie, the father did, and in this movie they're just gone. Again, that's a nitpick, but it's just something that I noticed. The side characters in this movie don't really give us much to go on or to care about. I also don't think the performances are that strong. Outside of Maika Monroe, I really didn't. The rest of like her friends and her sister and stuff were just kind of. They ranged from being meh to okay to filling their role, but none of them really stood out to me. I don't think the main cast was overly that great. And then my last con is I really didn't. The movie really didn't end on a strong point for me. I felt like the final act and the climax at the pool scene doesn't really make a lot of sense. Like my biggest thing is why did she get in the middle of the pool to begin with before the entity is even in there? Why not just jump in the pool once he walks in? I mean, it's just again, maybe I'm missing something, but it's just not the strongest ending overall, and it kind of lets the movie down, in my opinion. So I know it probably sounds like I'm being really negative on this movie, but I actually am not. I mean, damn this glare. I actually did like it follows well enough to keep it in my collection. I have it on Blu-ray in the digital HD code here. I think it's fine. It's just on a horror, especially from a technical aspect, it kind of reminds me of another horror movie that I reviewed last night in Soho. Now, I don't think the technical aspects of this movie are quite as outstanding as that one, but it's the same in the sense that I can give pros to the technical aspects and what they were going for in this movie, but ultimately, from a horror standpoint, and this channel that I have is based on horror. It just doesn't really work for me. I mean, I'll definitely watch it again. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe you need to watch this movie a few times. I've heard some people that really like it say that, but I don't know. The idea that there's a lot of comments about nothing short of amazing and instant classic. I've heard some people say this is the best horror movie in the last 10 years. It's transcendent for the horror genre. It's going to have to really do something different for me to back up those comments the next time I watch it. But this is a 7 out of 10 for me as far as the rating goes. It's not the worst thing in the world. As I said, I like the aesthetic. I like the main character, the main actress. I thought did a good job. Flawed character that we come to care about, but there's just a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense. And the biggest thing is I wasn't scared during the movie. You got to scare me when I'm watching a horror movie. Sorry, maybe I'm crazy for that, but 7 out of 10. Check it out if you want, but I wouldn't. I wouldn't walk in front of a bus to get this movie, but I would if it's available to you for 10 or 15 bucks. I'd give it a watch, especially on Blu-ray. So 7 out of 10. Please like this video and hit the little notification bell down below so you don't miss any of my last few videos for this series. And make sure to hit the subscribe button down below so you don't miss any of my great horror content for my channel that I have coming up for basically the rest of the year planned out. So thank you for watching this review. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a great day. Stay scared. Bye.